Hi everyone, it's Lauren. I have acquired a few books recently that I'm really excited about, so I thought I'd put them together in a little haul video for you today. The first two are some poetry collections that were sent to me by Faber, and they are Crow by Ted Hughes, which I really wanted to read because for Christmas I got given Grief is a Thing with Feathers by Max Porter, which is a poetry collection which is sort of a riff off of Ted Hughes's collection. I did read some Ted Hughes at school, but since then I have not read, I think, a single poem by him, and this is one of his more famous collections anyway, so I was excited to read this, and I think reading it alongside with Grief is the Thing with Feathers will allow me to have a bit of a different perspective on both the poems in here and the wider themes of the collection. And the second collection that they sent through to me were 40 Sonnets by Don Patterson, which I saw on Cinzia's channel, C.A. Dubois, and she was absolutely raving about this collection, and both of these really are my sort of I want to read more poetry thing that I'm doing, and I've seen this around a lot recently anyway, but when Cinzia said that she loved it, I just had to get it. And as well as the poetry, Faber also sent to me Multitudes by Lucy Caldwell, which is a debut short story collection on themes of growing up, I think. It says here, with lives caught in the suspense of transition, between city and country, between the in crowd and the out, between home and escape, between love and loneliness, it culminates with the heart-wrenching and unforgettable title story as a young woman goes through her first labour and the traumatic days that follow. So this sounds really, really interesting, and I've really been loving short story collections recently, so I'm excited to be introduced to a new author. On the theme of short stories, I was also sent a beautiful collection by HarperCollins, which is Reader, I Married Him. And this is a set of stories based on or inspired by Jane Eyre, which has all been collated by Tracy Chevalier. And there are stories in here from lots of different authors. We have Tracy Chevalier herself, Emma Donoghue, Audrey Niffenegger, Helen Dunmore, Sally Vickers. There's quite a lot of authors in here that I have heard of and authors that I haven't as well. And the stories themselves are inspired by Jane Eyre in very different ways. So we have some that are viewpoints of different characters, such as Grace Poole or Mr. Rochester, some which involve a character reading Jane Eyre to someone, and I think some other stories which are just inspired by the events and themes of Jane Eyre. So I think this is going to be really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing the links between these stories and how they relate to Jane Eyre, because I think each of these authors are going to approach this kind of brief in a really different way. It has been my birthday this month, and I did get a couple of books for my birthday as well. I normally don't get given books for my birthday because I think generally my family are kind of worried about what to buy for me, and also my boyfriend is pretty much like, stop getting books! So I don't normally put books on my list, but the lovely Jen Campbell did get me a book for my birthday, and that is The Crane's Dance by Meg Howry, and this is about two sisters who are training to be ballet dancers, or who are ballet dancers in the same company. It's kind of about jealousy and the difficulties that they go through in trying to become professional dancers. And she's very lucky because she did recommend this to me a while ago, and I had it on my wish list, so I was planning on buying it, but a very good pick from her, thank you Jen. And I also got given a book from my boyfriend's auntie, which is The Book of Memory by Bettina Grappa, who is a Zimbabwean author. I hadn't really heard of this before. I think I'd seen it in shops, so I definitely recognised the cover, but I think this was a really great pick from her, and it is about a woman called Memory who is in Zimbabwe, and she has albinism, and she is in prison for murdering her adoptive father, and I believe this book goes back and tries to unpick her memories to work out what really happened. So a really interesting pick. So thank you, Auntie Sue. And finally, I'm very pleased to say that I'm going to be doing some work with the Bailey's Women's Prize for Fiction this year. So the short list of the 6 books got announced on the 11th of April, and they've sent me through the ones that I didn't have already. So I already had A Little Life by Hanya Yanagihara and The Green Road by Anne Enright. And so they've sent me the remaining 4, the first of which is Ruby by Cynthia Bond. This is about a woman who grows up in the Deep South, I believe, and then goes to New York, escapes the violence from her hometown, and then many years later returns and has to face her past. It says on the front here that her writing has been likened to Toni Morrison, and I read The Bluest Lie last year and really, really enjoyed it. I don't want to jump the gun and say this is going to be exactly like that, because obviously I haven't read it yet, but that kind of comparison really excites me. Also shortlisted is The Glorious Heresies by Lisa McInerney. This is about a woman in Ireland who ends up killing a man somehow and then has to fall on her son, who is a gangster, to help her cover it up or escape what's going on, I believe. So this sounds really interesting. To be really brutally honest, if I saw a cover like this, it probably wouldn't be something I would go for, because it sounds quite action-based and crime-based, which isn't something I normally read. But the fact that it's been shortlisted for a prize like this makes me think there's going to be something really interesting inside this cover. We also have The Portable Veblen by Elizabeth Mackenzie, which is a story of a woman called Veblen who, among other things in her life, believes that this little grey squirrel which is following her can understand everything that she's saying. And from reading the blurb, it sounds like there's a crazy cast of characters. It sounds very kooky, and I think I saw this, I definitely have seen this on someone else's channel. It might have been Nicola at Robotnik, but I was really interested in reading this, so I'm really pleased that it got shortlisted, because this sounds, again, just completely different to the other books that have been shortlisted. And finally, we have The Improbability of Love by Hannah Rothschild, which is about a woman who finds a discarded piece of art in a junk shop, which it then turns out is some kind of priceless find, and she gets caught up in the art world, in the kind of gangster side of the art world. And this sounds quite funny and a bit of a kind of thriller crime, but it doesn't sound that serious. I mean, it's interesting, that's what I'm getting from the blurb. This sounds really, really fun. And when you're comparing a book like this to something like A Little Life, I think this is a really varied and interesting shortlist, so I'm going to have a lot of fun reading well, all 5 of them, because I've read A Little Life already, and comparing them all. So a really interesting group of books there that I've been sent or been given recently, quite interestingly, because they're ones that have either been sent to me by publishers or have been gifted to me. I don't know an awful lot about all of them, so it makes it quite interesting, and I'm really looking forward to diving into them. As always, I really look forward to talking to you in the comments. I would love to hear from you if you've read any of these books already and have any recommendations on what I should read first. If you're new, you can subscribe to more videos by clicking the red button on the bottom left corner of this video, and I will see you next time. Bye! I have been reading a lot more about feminism and gender theory recently. Last month I did focus a lot on the actual feminism, and although that's something that really interests me, I think as a woman reading about feminism a lot, it can get quite exhausting and it can make you feel quite angry a lot of the time.